Okay, I realized I probably should be talking too. I'll play some music. Don't worry, it is royalty free. Okay. Okay, so that should be all set up so people will know. And let's make all this small. Anyway, welcome to the stream as people come in. See that people are starting to join. Wonderful. Okay. Might be slow to start down. I just wanted to see some people to join, and then when everyone is joining up, then we can begin. So the way I was thinking of doing this time, sorry if I'm awkward about this at all either, I'm not quite used to streaming, but I want to try it out. Anyway, sorry. So the way I was going to do this is I was going to kind of give a straightforward tutorial in a sense, where I just go forward and show some of the methods that I use in After Effects when I'm compositing for animations I do, and because I always get a lot of comments like, wow, how did you do this, or your After Effects skills are cool, and I'm like, oh, thank you. But now I can hopefully shed some light on how those things are done. It'd be fun to see more people trying it. I think After Effects is a really cool and useful program for animators to know, not just video editors, not just anyone, but really it's just a helpful tool. You can push your animations to another level, so that's something I think is good. And then after I show some things, I'll open it up to just questions from the little live chat, and anyone who wants to ask any questions can ask it. That anything I didn't cover, and then I can hopefully answer those. I feel like I know a good amount of After Effects. Not here to just toot my own horn or anything, but hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions and show some helpful things. All right. Oh, hey everybody. People are showing up. Cool, I think I can start this. This is also is on YouTube. When this video is done, when this stream is done, it'll be up here, so anyone can come back and review what we went over today. Gosh, I sound like a teacher. Sorry, I don't mean to sound nerdy. But yeah, let's learn some After Effects, because people have been asking me, and hopefully I can be a good teacher. Okay. So first, I'm gonna start with an animation I was doing in TV Paint. Is the map part for the Five Giants piece I did. A lot of people liked that one, and because before you start off in After Effects, you kind of have to work within the animation you've made already, the program, and set some things up to be ready for After Effects. So one of the key ideas with doing when you're animating is this: you gotta kind of keep in mind that you're going to composite things later. So really pay attention to layers. Keep things on different layers. That's a very important part. Like this character and this character are not on the same layer. I mean, it's helpful for animation, but it's very helpful for compositing. When you're compositing animation, the more separate pieces, like the more you can separate your animation into different pieces, the better, because that way you can put it all back together in After Effects in hopefully a more appealing way, or you have more creativity power layer to work with it. Because if things are all together on the same layer when you created it, it's much harder to take apart in After Effects and do things with it. So, not sure if those who have seen it before, kind of looks like this in the end. Yeah. So this is After Effects. I'll get back to this though. We're still in TV Paint. And this also works for Flash, or I'm pretty sure for Toon Boom. I haven't worked with that just yet, but I'm sure the methods are very much the same. Basically, here my background is transparent, and I have these characters here. They're all colored, all finished up, and everyone has their own layers down here. I kind of did a little color organization for this one, but yeah. So this is very helpful. So when you're animating this, you want to keep that in mind. Also, if you're going to be doing any camera moves, or tweening of a character, like say just moving around on the background, if you're going to do like character animation tweens, then just go ahead, do that in the program. But if you're going to animate a character, say into like a symbol in Flash and move them around in a tween, or in TV Paint they have their own little camera tool, I would advise animate the character in a still position. You want to keep them, you don't want to do the tweens. You want to get rid of all the tweens and then do all that in After Effects, because After Effects has a much more versatile tweening software. It can use a graph editor, it can utilize motion blur, so it's a lot stronger tool than given in the programs. And if you do it all in After Effects with the rest of your compositing, you have a lot more flexibility, because otherwise you'll be going back and forth between the programs a lot more, and it would be a mess. So really, when you're wanting to composite an animation, you should think a little bit ahead while you're actually animating to prepare things. So animating things in a still place and moving them later is good. And also, if the character is going to move in and off of screen, you can even work in a larger canvas size than your final product would be. That gives the character room to be animated in. And because if the character is animated and cut off here and you want her to move her up, you won't be able to, because she will be she or they will be cut off. See, there's nothing down here, so you only have what you have to work with when you create it. So that's that. Sorry, I just checked the message there. Okay, so those are some important things to think about. This applies with TV Paint, this applies with Toon Boom, Flash, any of that. Also, I'm just going to quick check the chat. Hopefully my audio is okay and everyone's able to follow along. I had some music playing in the background, but I think it's supposed to be very quiet. Okay, I don't see anyone complaining yet, so hopefully we're still on this. Okay, so when you've animated everything and it's all separate, everyone has their own layers. It may seem strange at first because things might be overlaying places that you don't want, but all this is gonna make sense in the end. It's working about, like, After Effects is all about putting things together in the end and having it all look nice. So it takes a little bit of foresight into the future of how you're when you're animating. But that's not a bad thing. It's always good to think about what your final product will look like as you're doing it. So most important thing then is when you're in the program, you'll want to get rid of or hide all the layers besides one thing you want to work on, and then you want to export just this by itself. The way you do that in TV Paint specifically, you can just minimize, you can just hide the layers there, export, and then the way thing I choose is I'll go to a QuickTime and then pick the RGBA option, because that will include an alpha channel. Alpha channels, for those of you who don't know, means transparency. So if a file doesn't have an alpha channel in it, you can't do any transparency. So this one has it for PNGs. You can also do a PNG sequence. It just makes a lot more files. So even though the file size is a little bigger, I find it helpful to work with. So this is what I would export, and I'd probably title it something like 5 Giants Ashfur 1. Maybe if he has multiple shots, right? And I would just export just this. I've already done this, so I won't do this now, but I do that, and then I turn him off and go down to Squirrelfly here. I hope I'm saying all their names right. And then I would export just her, like this. See, so this is her individual piece, and all these pieces are all separate, and they all have their own transparent backgrounds. And when I import them to After Effects, I'll have this big list of things I can then put onto a timeline and layer. It's almost like working with Photoshop and collaging, except background. You made each piece already, and now you're just putting it back together in the end. So once you've done all of that, I think we're just about ready to head over to After Effects. I can come back to this if people have more questions, or I can talk about how to do that with Flash. People specifically want to know how to do things with Flash. So let me know, because the process is slightly different, but it's the same idea where you want things to be on separate layers, and then when you export them, you want to have multiple exported files of your animation, but with each character separated. If you have multiple characters, or if you just have one character, then it's simple. And also no backgrounds. If you have backgrounds in your animation, or you're like working with a background, that's fine. Just make sure to export that as a separate layer on its own. Don't export that with the character, because After Effects needs to recognize the character as itself, separate from the background, in order to do a lot of the effects that we're going to do today. Okay, so just wanted to make sure. This is very important, so sorry if I keep saying it, but keep things separate if you can. It'll really help down the line. Okay, so with that, we can head on over to After Effects. So this is what the final product kind of turned out like. For those of you who haven't seen it, I think it turned out pretty good. It has a lot of different kinds of the effects we're going to go over here, and then I'll show a couple more effects I don't have in this one that people might want to learn about. But yeah, we covered a lot of different things. Got overlays, lighting, motion blur, I believe. Yep, we got crazy motion blur. Depth of field, water. I'm not sure if I can go into water. There's better After Effects tutorials for that, but I can teach you at least how to composite with it. And moving things around in After Effects to create cameras and working with that. So to begin with here, I think I'm gonna start off fresh and then show you how it all begins. So when you start off fresh, this is what an After Effects standard template would look like. Also, to clarify, this is After Effects CS6. I know they're already on to CC 2017 or whatever it is right now. But honestly, it looks very similar to this. There's not very much differences. So all this should apply to After Effects CC. For those with CC, if you guys see some cool new effects that weren't present in CS6 and you're like, oh man, you should definitely try this, I'll definitely check them out. But so far, CS6 has worked pretty well for me, as is. So when you begin, you have this new project, and you might notice there's not much around. So the first thing you would probably want to do is go over to the composition, and you want to make a new composition. So this is pretty much like the stage, the file, because even when you start a new project, there's not even like a dimensions for it yet either. It's just an open place where you can import files and do whatever you want. But the first thing you want to do is make compositions. So After Effects is all based around compositions, and I'll explain that later. So, but this is very important. So you can name it whatever you want. I guess we can call this five giants Yeah, it was called 5 times part. Okay, so and then you want to set it to the dimensions of your film. So for this one, I just is a standard 1080p thing. They probably have presets, but whatever, this works. So 24 frames per second, and that's what it looks like. Oh, here, sorry, before I go into all this, I realized I'm jumping around a lot here. I can go over a little bit of the layout here, the program, for those who don't know. So this main window here is just your viewport. So everything you're working with here, we can go here. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. If you have a mouse wheel or trackpad, I guess you can zoom in and out, or you can go here. Fit can be helpful sometimes. This is kind of important. It says half right here. This goes on to auto, full, half, third, quarter, and custom. Basically what that means is that when you're playing your animation, you can either play it in full quality, that uses up a lot of resources on your computer. So sometimes it's set to play at like half quality just while you're previewing it. But then when you export it, it'll be full quality, so you don't have to worry about that. So usually setting to half is important, or even down to third or a quarter if your computer is slower. One thing that After Effects uses a lot of is your computer's RAM or memory. So if you don't have a lot of RAM on your computer, After Effects might be a little bit of a struggle to use. You can always consider upgrading it. It's pretty easy to do for both desktops and laptops. Even older Macs are able to just open up and you can put in more. I'd recommend at least 8 gigabytes of RAM, which most computers nowadays, if you have a newer computer, come with already, so you don't have to worry about that. But it's always something to check. Right now, I recently upgraded mine to 16, and yeah, it's been helping me with After Effects a lot. It's been running a lot smoother. Because After Effects, once I've upgraded to 16, it's used up to 12, or it can use all the RAM possible. It will not stop. So don't feel afraid to get more RAM. Over here, you have these different bars. This is how I have it set up. Sometimes in the program, it might be set up differently. I have my timeline play options here. I got play. This is important as a RAM preview. So right now you see the timeline is green. It means everything in there is loaded. There's nothing there, so obviously it'd be loaded. But when you put some things in here, it might be gray or red, yellow, I believe, and you want it to be green. So this will kind of load the images, processing a little bit. So that way it'll be able to play it real time. Because a lot of times if you just hit play, there's so much to After Effects is trying to calculate that it won't be able to do it in real time. Things like motion blur and lighting, for example. So frame rate, this frame rate is at 12, so I actually want to bring that up to 24. That might be composition setting. So you always want to make sure that you're playing the same frame rate as your composition. So you can always check your composition settings. Whoops, see, I had it set for 12. I'm working with a 12-second animation, 12 frames per second. But I want to set this one for 24, because that's what I animated my part at. So you always want to make sure everything's animated. All the frame rates and settings are the same as what you were working with in your program here. So I had 24 frames per second, and I was at 1920 by 1080. So everything's the same, and that means that we are good. So that's that. This is a list of the different effects and presets, animation presets you can work with in After Effects. You can also get to them from up here. There are a lot, but so I'll just show you a couple of those. Info, this is always just kind of here. You don't really need to pay attention to this. Audio, also, I would not recommend doing audio editing and audio mixing in After Effects. It's not made for that, and a lot of other programs would be better. Even Premiere would be better. But if you do wish to work with it, there's a little audio gauge here so you can kind of see how loud your stuff is getting. Make sure you don't peak. And then typing. It's good for titles. After Effects is good for putting in titles because you can animate them. You can do a lot of work with that because After Effects is primarily a motion graphics and compositing program. So little things down here you can work with using the type tool. But anyway, now once you have all this set up, you have your composition set up, It's black. It can be any color you want, but I don't know, black's standard. You want to start importing all the different files you made. So I'm going to go over to my folder. Here it is. 5 Giants, and I have all these different footage I exported. So I got Squirrel Tail here, got Holly Leaf, got when she's walking, and you want to just, I'm holding control here to click on multiple files, and you want to just start importing all these different files that you need. So these are all the different ones I worked with. As for being dead. Okay, and then I have some backgrounds here. I have saved up. Some of them are different pieces. So I'm just gonna grab all those. Get the blood. I think that's all of them. Okay. Aside from a mess here. That's most absurd. Okay, and then if you bring in anything with a channel, alpha channel in, it might ask you this, interpret the footage. You want to just click on pre-multiplied like this, and you can hit OK, and then you just keep hitting OK for those. Okay. Cool. So there we go. Now you've imported all the different files, and it'll show up here underneath your thing. You also see that the composition you made, this guy, is also here because you can actually work with compositions as a piece, as a like a layered as well. But in this case, it's just going to be there. But here's all the different things we have. So if I bring in Squirrel Tail, for example. Oh, Squirrel Tail. Is that her name? I don't know. Oops, this is not set to the right time. Anyway. Okay, so here she is. So you can see it's just like how it was in TV Paint. Yeah, here it is. Same deal, but now we're in After Effects. Ta-da. So, and you want to pretty much just arrange things the same way as they were, as you had it there. And now also with the backgrounds. So let's see, we'll find, did I not import the Escher, the close-up one? Might not have. Okay, let's import the background stuff then. Put in background stuff, there they are. Add this other foreground, I'll go in front of that. This one was a transparent kind of background. Because I'll have different layers. It's all about layering in After Effects. And then I have my big fire. Let's see, where is that? Might not have imported that. So let me just quick check. Oh, fire. Okay, guess I have it as an image sequence. Anyway. Okay, so if you do an image sequence, you can click on the first image and then make sure you check this little check mark down here, PNG sequence, and then it'll just import it as a footage rather than a bunch of different images. Open, so there you can see it's just one footage, and I can drop it right in there. There we go. So now it's behind my log. Or actually, no, I should go in front. Oops. There we go. So now that's that, and then Ashford is supposed to be covering up this part. I wonder where he went. Let me import him too. Oh, there he is. Sorry. Okay, so there we go. Now I have the background in there, and this is looking pretty good. You know, this for most animations, if you didn't do After Effects, this is kind of just what it would be. It would all be in the program, and you can work with it like this. You know. But because now we're in After Effects, we have a lot more things we can do. So you can see this looks pretty close to what I have already had, though. You know. So everything's working there. Okay. Sorry for all this technical stuff, like learning how to set things up, but it's all very important because before you can do all the fancy effects, you have to make sure that they'll work, and these are important things. You can see everything is a separate layer. You know, he's his own layer. Squirrel Tail Flight, whatever her name is here. Squirrel, old color. Fire, and the backgrounds. So because all that is together, we have a kind of foreground, a midground, a background. It's good. Well, it adds a lot of depth to our scene. So now we can start working with these things. Okay, so one of the first, usually you want to set up the entire scene. Although if you're working with a large animation, say anything over the size of a map part, even really, you'd want to break up the scenes into different After Effects files. You wouldn't want to work with everything in one big After Effects file. It's not the way you'd want to work. After Effects is very layer heavy. As you can see, I already have these metal layers. I mean, some projects I have can even just be a couple of seconds long, like a size of a map part, and they can have 100 layers. So if you want to keep down layer complexity and file size and headaches, try to separate things into different files and then put them back together for a larger project in a program like Premiere, and a proper editing program. It's also very hard to edit all that. If you have hundreds of layers and each piece is a bunch of layers, it's very hard to move things around. So it's better to work in separate shots as separate projects in After Effects, and then put it back together in a proper editing program. Premiere, Windows Movie Maker even work, however you edit. But now that we're in this, I can start showing you some of the effects that we can work with. So there's two different things. There's layer styles and then there's effects. For anyone who's familiar with Photoshop, it has the same thing. They have like an effects option where you can do all those fun stuff like liquify and all those things. After Effects has a lot of the same effects that Photoshop does. It works very similar. And then it also has a bunch of other ones that are very time-based, because you're working with movie files here instead of still images. And then they also have the layer styles, where in Photoshop you can add things like an inner glow or a bevel, or like an outline. And all those things can also be applied on After Effects things, even though they move. So to do that, you can either go over to layer styles, it's down over here, and then you have a couple of options. There you go. Or you can right click on the object you have here and then go over to layer styles, and you can see they're right here too. So one of the most common ones I would use is the bevel and emboss. Oops, that's on the fire. I want to do it on square flight. And that is a kind of way to simulate some sort of gradient lighting effect for characters. It kind of adds a little bit of 3D-ness to them. It can also make them look a little bit graphical, flat, because it only does shading on the edges. So you want to use it sparingly or smartly. In this case it works because the moon's over there and the fire. Or it might work with sun, but if you want to get a full shaded effect, you should probably still animate the shading, even if it's very difficult and time consuming. But this is a fast way of doing shading, and it's worked a lot for me, so it can look pretty nice. So once you've added a layer style, you'll see it, this little layer popped open here, these little arrows, little drop down arrows every single layer has. It gives you here a bunch of different other ones. Transform audio layer styles. And then under bevel and emboss, see, got a new one. We have different options we can work with. We have all these different options. You can already see that it started to put in a little bit of highlighting on the top of the character, and it's harder to see, but there's a little bit of shadow on the back, on the bottom right there. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So here in size, I can make this a bit bigger. Show it a bit more. Looks a bit silly right now, but we can soften that if we want to make it look a little bit lighter, a little softer. That's looking nice. And then you can change the angle. So this is the lighting angle. And this is a helpful way of adding lighting to character. The highlighting and the shading are automatically set to screen and multiply for just white and black, set at 75% opacity automatically. You can change this up. So for example, if I wanted this light to say simulating not the fire, but say like the moonlight, this white is looking pretty good, but maybe I want it to even be like a slightly bluish tinge. I might give it a nice color, and I might bring that down a bit because I don't want too much lighting. It's nighttime, you know, and a lot of the light will be coming from the fire, so something like that. And then for ground shadows, for the shadows, This always kind of looks a little bit worse. I mean, I like how the highlighting looks always in the bevel and emboss, but the shadows don't always look amazing. So I usually try to turn these down. A lot of times I'll also try to get the ground color. It's good to reflect that up. In this case, it's a kind of a lighter brown. Sometimes if they're on grass, it puts a little bit of a green color, and it's all this way to help put the character into the environment a little bit more. Then I'll turn this probably way down, maybe to like 20%, something subtle. You want to just add a little bit of depth to the character, but you don't want it to be jarringly obvious that you're using an effect. The size is pretty good, and yeah, so that's one way, and you can see it's already applied to the animation. So as she moves around, you know, it's very interactive. It'll work with her outline, and it's shading the whole animation there. So it's a very fun way of doing that. And you can use this for a bunch of different methods. You know, say if like there's a light in your scene and you need it to a red light or something like that, you can make it bright red and you can shine red on her, make it a little bit more dramatic. But yeah, for this case, this is going to be the moon. And you can add more than one layer style, as they call it, or layer effect. So I'm going to go over layer styles, and I'm also going to add a inner glow. There it is, inner glow. So this one is going to add, it's just very subtle. You can see a new one there, inner glow. Little eyeballs, you can turn them on and off to preview anything. I'm going to go over to there, because this is going to be nice. This is going to give me a kind of all-around light from all ways, all edges. That's going to be kind of for this backlighting effect, a rim light from the fire. So we're going to want that to be probably the pretty orange, like that. It's already set the screen, and if we zoom in here, if you hold spacebar and click, you can move around. Pretty helpful. And then you can bring up the size like that. You can see that it starts to add this nice glow all around. Something like that. You can mess around with, you know, the opacity to everything going on. The colors, maybe that orange looks bad, and you want a deeper orange. And you can even mess around with different layering styles. This is screen. You can also try an overlay. Maybe that would work better. It all really just depends on what works best for your scene. I think screen will work better because we want something that's more creating a sense of lighting of the character. Okay, something like that maybe. Cool. So you can see that applied to the whole scene there. Yeah, it's looking pretty neat. One thing though that is a problem, and there is a way around it, but it can be a little bit annoying, is with things like bevel and emboss and inner glow, it will take into the account the edges of the screen. So even though her foot, you know, wouldn't have light coming up from it, it sees an edge there, so it's giving it a edge glow. And there's a sneaky way I kind of came up with to get around that if you want. So something for as subtle as this, I wouldn't really mind, but for example, if I were to take this inner glow and if I were to copy it, you can just make sure if you click on the title, the name of the thing, and Control C or Command C if you're on a Mac, copy it, you can actually paste that onto any other layer and it'll just go on just like that. There we go. You can see it gives this really jarring edge glow right here, and we don't want that. We just want the glowing on his side of his cheek here. Also, you can change it up because he's a little bit more close up, so we want the size to be a lot bigger, a lot more glow. And then maybe bring that color down a bit, something like that. Bring down the opacity. Want just a little bit of glow on him. Something like that maybe. But we have all this here, so I'll show you just a little bit of trick real fast, and I'll also be able to go to another tool, which is the masking tool. Very important. So first thing I'm going to do is duplicate the layer, Command D, or you can right click, and I think there's a duplicate. Nope, never mind. Edit. Sorry, duplicate. This is Control D or Command D. That makes this a perfect duplicate of it, and any effects that you had on it would also duplicate over. So you can see it's just another one there. And you want to, on this one, you're going to want to turn off the layer style, the inner glow. You can just either delete it or just turn off the eyeball on it. And then over here on the top menu, you can see this little pen thing called Pen Tool. You want to click on that, it gives you this little pen. And this is a masking tool. So masking lets you mask off certain areas of the animation and only show that. So this will be helpful for if I want to mask off the edges of him that we don't want glowing. Say all this, make sure I go out of it here and then complete it. Like that. So, and there we go. Check that out. Now, I'm going to fix that too in a little bit. But you can kind of see already that he's no longer glowing on the edges. He's just glowing on the edge that we want, the one that's facing the fire here. So basically what I just did there is I masked off a version of him that doesn't have the light and just put it on top of the one that does. So you're kind of hiding where the light was. If you turn off this one, you can see he's just kind of a strip here. But that one is on top of that. So it's a handy way, especially works if the characters aren't moving around too much, because otherwise then you'll have to animate the mask layer with them. But yeah, it's a handy way to get around that issue. Another way, if you really want to do it, is while you're animating, make sure your characters actually are going larger than the size that there would be here. You know, for example, if Squirrel Tail was animated like at this length, at this height, but I drew her foot down there, you can see that After Effects won't read that as an edge anymore. It only reads this as an edge, but it wouldn't read that. So you can always maybe animate about on a canvas about 10% bigger than the one you'd actually end up with, and then that would kind of solve the problem. But this is just a quick, easy After Effects central way of getting around it. And then to get rid of that kind of hard, awkward edge, you want to just go over to your mask. Everything has a drop down. Literally everything you work with, even effects, have drop downs. And you'll want to go over the feathering option. Just means it's gonna kind of soften it up, and we can just bring that up a bit and make that look a little softer. Bring that out. Check out what it looks like up there. And yeah. Okay, so there we go. Now we got a nice edge glow and ash fur there too. See that? So, that's all working together. So masks have a lot of different uses. That's not the only use, definitely. But this is one use you can do. And that's kind of how that would work. So now that I showed you layer styles and masking, I can maybe show you some of the effects we can work with. So there are definitely some helpful effects. One of them being, say in this case, Asher is really close to the camera, and he's just the same sharpness. But a lot of times in movies, and they like to do this a lot, you can kind of create that sort of lens blur effect that when objects are really close to the camera and you're focusing something a little farther away, it can kind of get blurred, or vice versa. Say if the character is really close up, the background's all blurred. So some people might just use like the simple Gaussian blur option. It's a simple one a lot of people use, but After Effects has a really nice blur option. It's called the camera lens blur. So I'm gonna go over here to effects. You can also do it here. You can even search for it. Camera, there it is. So under here, blur and sharpen, camera lens blur. See that? You want to just click on that and then drag it onto the layer. Cool. So now we can see, look at that, he's a little bit blurred already. And this one, It's already going to be looking a lot nicer than what a Gaussian blur would work with, because it blurs like a natural camera lens would, where a camera has a shape of a shutter, an iris, aperture, whatever you want to call it. In this case, it's a hexagon. You can just shed it to different shapes, and it kind of blurs with that in mind, and it works just really nicely. Creates this nice, very realistic feeling blur quality. You can see it get very pixely there, but once it loads, it looks really nice. So there we go. So say if I want like a really nice blur like that, 16, that adds a really nice quality to the character. I do have 2 copies of Astro here though, so I will want to click on camera lens blur, hit Command C, and then click on the other layer and paste it on there too, so that way it's all blurred. Oh, and just so you know, it'll blur edges here, camera lens blur, so you want to just make sure you check the repeat edge pixels. I'll just fix that little problem. I want to do that for both. Okay, so there we go. So now we have this really nice kind of depth of field look going on for Ashfur, and that's it's looking pretty good. I can adjust this at any time. You know, it's always, I'm never set for one. You know, if I want them super blurry, like it's ridiculous, like not even visible blob, I can make them that. Or if I want them just like, you know, pretty crisp, but just have a little bit of out of focusness, something like that, and work with that. But I think, considering how close he is up to the frame, and how much I want the focus more to be on squirrel flight over here, compared to him, this is a good way to draw attention to her, because now he's out of focus. You know, he's still here, you know he's here, but the attention is more around her now. Another effect I like to use, especially for fires, explosions, anything bright, is the glow effect. It can be easily distasteful if used incorrectly, but I think it can be nice. So this fire is looking kind of bland, you know, it's just flat orange. I don't even have like another color on the inside. But if I go over to effect, I usually go in this menu. I know you can search on here, probably should. This is a good habit to get used to. I never did, but look up glow. It's under stylize, glow. So we can click on that and then drag it onto our fire. Boom. That I got a lot brighter. Wow. That is a bright yellow orange. So if we kind of zoom in here, we can see a little bit more what's going on. After I kind of have to load it. We have a bit more effects going on now. So this is what's kind of doing. It adds this nice, just glow feel to, glowing feel to it. Now this is just what it looks like by standard, but we can really mess around with this. We want to bring up the radius a bit, make it feel like it's really sending out an edge there. We can bring down the threshold, bring in some more of that orange that we had. It's feeling pretty nice. Then we can bring up the intensity a bit. And bring that down. Yeah, so you have all these different settings you can work with. And then I'll go into another thing soon about that. So, okay, maybe that's looking pretty cool. Something like that, maybe. This gives me a nice, it's kind of reading the edge there in some areas and giving me this nice deep orange glow, but it's also giving me this nice, this bright yellow. And I think it looks pretty cool. I like the way that looks, personally. You know, it certainly looks, you can turn off, see what it says FX here, it's this little box. If you click that, it'll show you what it looks like without the effect and with it. So, pretty big difference there. And this works really nicely with effects, with effects like explosions too, especially if you have ones where it has like smoke and then little bits of flame in it, because it'll read the brighter areas and make those glow, and like the things like the smoke, it won't as much. There's all these different other settings you can mess around with too, but for the most part, those are usually okay. You don't have to tweak with them too much. But yeah, you can see how that affects the fire as it goes. There it is. Looking pretty sweet. Nice. Okay, so it's looking pretty good, you know, and Also, because I adjusted the fire, maybe if I say I want to go into squirrel tail and adjust how her lighting looks, maybe I want to now bring up the size of that inner glow, because I feel like you don't really see the effect of the light on her enough. Oops. Did I freeze After Effects? 1 second. This is loading something, I think. Since I'm running, it's the first time I'm running a stream and doing After Effects at the same time, so I can understand if it's a little bit slower than it normally would be for my computer. Hopefully it doesn't crash. If it does, I can do a quick pause of the stream and get back. Oh, worst case scenario, I can always just open up the final file and start backtracking from there. But yeah, you can kind of just adjust the lighting for her and see how that looks. So this is some of the different effects I work with. Let's see. After Effects seems to be having problems. The funny thing, sometimes when After Effects crashes, it's one of the few programs that will do this. It'll tell you, it'll stop working, and then a little window will pop up and it'll say, After Effects has stopped working. We are sorry for the inconvenience. It kind of apologizes for crashing while it's crashing. And then it'll actually give you a chance to save your file as it's crashing, which is incredible. I don't know how they figured out how to program that, but they did. I guess other times it really just freezes and totally crashes. I think that's more my computer's fault. It's because I'm running 2 big programs at the same time. Okay, so I'm just gonna sorry about that, guys. I'm just gonna quickly close After Effects here. I have to force quit it on my task manager. Always save. I didn't save, but that's okay, because this project we're already working with. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be coming back. Okay, sorry for this, guys. This seems very unprofessional. I apologize. Yes. But hopefully we can get right back on track. Come on, crash. Thanks. Well, at least my stream's still running strong. Here, maybe I can check the comments, see if you guys said anything yet. My audio's okay. Good to know. Oops. I have red stream health. That's not good. And After Effects still hasn't closed. Oh no. This is an absolute disaster. Yikes. Sorry guys, this hasn't really happened to me too much before. I don't know, even Task Manager is failing. Yikes. I guess I can just talk in the meantime while we wait for After Effects to stop dying. Or I might even have to somehow figure out how to pause the stream. Can you pause streams? I feel like you can only really stop them. And somehow get this all working again. Thank you for anyone who's sticking through this with me. Is it totally dead? Okay. Should drink some water. Talking a lot. Okay. Sorry if my voice was almost starting to sound hoarse there. Okay, got After Effects. It finished dying on me. Sorry about that. I guess we lost what we were working on then, but hopefully it's all good. Oh. Is my music too loud now? Let me make sure it's a little quieter. Okay, hopefully that's better, I think. Okay. So now everything is good. Hopefully it's not too low that it's completely unintelligible and quiet. So let's do this. Alright, so now I'm just probably going to open up my finished version and just we can look through it through there. Hopefully that's okay. I did enjoy trying to recreate it a little bit with you guys, but I think we can still learn a good amount from piecing it together this way. Okay, so let me go with this. Okay, so here's about where we were. Wow, this looks a lot better than we were before even. So I have a lot of things going on here. There's a lot. You can see there's a lot more layers now. Whoa, and a lot of things going on. But it's really just the same process. Like I said, you know, we still have Squirrel Tail. I don't know. I don't think that's her name. It doesn't sound right. Squirrel Flight. I think it's more right. And I still have the same layer styles on her. See, I still have my inner glow. I can turn that on and off. And I still have the bevel and emboss going on. I think I'm adding a good like bottom red here, kind of emphasize that fire feel. And yeah, so that's pretty much the same on her. That didn't change. You know, I still have the camera lens blur here in Ashfur, and I still have 2 layers of him in order to create that sort of in order to cut him off here so it doesn't glow in the wrong area. And yeah, we still have glow in the fire. I also stuck a fire behind the cat speck there. Let's see, just to kind of make that feel a bit better. And yeah, so I can go over a couple new things too. As you can see, I have these little bit of particles kind of flying around. After Effects actually has its own particle simulation system built into it. It's pretty complex, pretty powerful. You could actually create something like this, but a lot of times with movies, with a lot of things, with After Effects, you kind of want to create and find a library of these things called stock footage of different effects. So in this case, is literally some guy filmed a bunch of kind of fire embers against a black background. Oh shoot, I forgot his name. I think I had it here. Say his name? No. Anyway, you can look him up. There's lots of different types of stock footage. In this case, I found one. Pretty good quality. And just kind of stuck it on there, and you can composite it. Pretty simple. Here, let's see if I can find it. Which one is it? Here, fire embers. So this one is it's pretty simple. You can see if I turn it on and off there. It's just these little particles that float around. And that is, I just went to the blending. If you right click on the layer, go to blending mode, I set it to screen, because normally it's this this black footage like this. This is what the original file looked like. I think I might have even added a glow to it. Maybe? No, I didn't. It's just glowing like that. Anyway, yeah, so I just went over to blending mode, screen, and for those who worked with Photoshop, they already kind of know this deal. Basically, what screen does, it just takes any of the black value and makes it transparent. So it's just a helpful way to composite stock footage. A lot of stock footage is shot on black backgrounds. Stock footage is good for things like this, embers. It's good for dust. If, like I say, a character like hits the ground real hard, you can kind of put little dust poofs, or you can find lots of those on YouTube. Just look up like free dust stock footage. Look up fire ember stock footage. If you can build up a library of these things, save them somewhere, use them in your compositing work, it's always helpful. So in this case, I found an ember one I had before actually, and now I found a use for it. In this big fire scene, I can add it to add a lot of depth to the scene, just an extra layer there, make it seem really intense. I think I also darkened Ash for a bit, so there's some other color correction effects on there. You have like a tint going on, I believe. Yeah. So it's making him a bit more reddish kind of colored. And yeah, so those are helpful things. You know, if your color isn't quite right in your original animation, you know, see it's a little bit gray here, but this fits the scene a lot better. So you can always change. There's a lot of different color correction effects in After Effects that work really well. You got the standard ones like changing your hue and saturation, your brightness and contrast. Those are some pretty standard ones. But then you have all these other crazy ones too, like tint is a helpful way to like put things to pure black if you need to. In this case, I tinted his blacks to more of a brownish red color. And you can set things to black and white. There's a bunch of different other ones here. You can always look into them. I say one of the easiest ways to learn a program is to just open it up and try everything in it. And that's kind of how I learned After Effects, that and like watching specific tutorials occasionally, but a lot of times learning a program is just kind of really opening up and just messing around with it. You learn a lot of things that way. But you can always join a stream like this and learn some more specific things. I hope I'm covering some good stuff so far. Hope you guys are learning some new things. I still have a lot of other things I can go over. Hopefully I'm not taking forever. There's just so much to learn. so many things you can do. But yeah, I hope to cover a good amount, and then you guys can always ask questions on something you might have seen me do or seen other people do that I didn't cover. You'd want to learn. So yeah, so these things are just called overlays usually. The stock footage are considered, technical term would be an overlay. They're very common in compositing work for films. I think that's my only overlay for this one. In this shot, I used the camera lens blur on a background rather than blurring it in like the actual layer. It's just nice to work here. That kind of brings, and also on the fire, this brings a lot of nice focus to Ashfur here. Same thing. I just put a little bit of edge glow, the inner glow, then bevel and emboss on him. That's all looking pretty good. Makes him seem real nice and intense. I also have another overlay actually. It's a lighting overlay. So another thing I can do is if you have some sort of like lighting effect on your background, like a nice soft gradient, like say like something like the sky or the sun, or in this case actually I have something else. It's nice if you can have a lighting effect that goes over both the background and the character, because that will really kind of ground your character to the background in some way, if it's affecting both the background and the character. So usually for daylight scenes I have this thing I work with I made this file, my little After Effects folder here. I made a couple different things I'll work with. There's the dust I mentioned. I made this thing called light, and basically what that is, I don't think I use it in this one because it's a nighttime shot, so I don't need a light, but you can go over it still. It's kind of just this circle gradient that's transparent around the edges. You can make it pretty simple in Photoshop if you just take like the elliptical tool and make sure that your first color is white and the second color is just pure transparent. Elliptical gradient tool, and you can make something like this and just export it as a PNG, and you can use this a billion different ways. So say like if the sky was really bright, I can kind of stick that up here, and if I click on click on the edges here, you can kind of resize it. You can make it small, make it big, make it pretty big. I can set it to the blending mode to screen, make sure it's a little bit brighter, and then under here, if I go down to transform, I can change its opacity right here. Ooh. 1 second. There we go. Had something turned off by accident. It's not the first time that's happened. And I can turn that down a little bit, and something like this might add a lot of nice just glow, because see, it brightens up the background and it brightens up the character. And while that might seem like, yeah, duh, it does, it's on both of them, just little things like that where it affects both the character and the background can usually add a lot. And just gradienting light, making brighter areas on a character rather than in darker areas. It can bring attention to certain things. So, if it wasn't nighttime, I might actually like the way that this looks. If I wanted to, even I can actually put it back here and color correct it with a tint that white to like a yellow orange or something, bright yellow orange. That actually might be a good light for him. If I just make it smaller, whoops, grab the background there. Meant to grab the light. Where's light? There it is. There we go. Make it a little smaller. And yeah, sometimes After Effects is about these like little subtle things. So it's like, oh, what effect did that make? You can always just kind of see. So yeah, it's a little bit more light on him, I guess. It's a little subtle. You can make it a little brighter if you want. Put it on like the nook of his neck, something like that. But it works. These things are helpful. It's mainly good for daylight things. I usually put them up the top like that, kind of half off. I'll show you another project after this one that I use that a lot to good effect. But for this one, nighttime, so we don't have that. What I do have is the opposite of that, which is a dark gradient. Here, let me turn its blending mode back to normal. Add a color burn. And let me check its opacity. So okay, so I had this gradient here, right? This is actually using the gradient effect in After Effects, but you can also make some gradients on Photoshop and to save them out. I have one actually now. I use for nighttime scenes, kind of this dark blue one. It's nice. Yeah, basically I just put that over the character, and it kind of just darkens the bottom. Just little things like that can help light a scene, or shade a scene, make it just feel a little darker. This goes over the background and the character as well. It's way up top here. So it is just lowered the opacity, and then the color burn or multiply option, in this case color burn, worked nice. Created this kind of little nice dark saturated band there at the bottom. That worked really well for this scene. So those are just different things you can overlay with lights and colored gradients. They work. A lot of people put colored gradients over their illustrations as they're drawing. It works just as well for animation, and you can do it. You shouldn't be discouraged. You should, if you want to do that for your animations. If you like how that effect looks, then yeah, go for it. After Effects is a powerful tool, and it'll let you do that. Gosh, I sound like an advertisement sometimes. Okay, so those are some of the cool things I got going on there. Maybe now I can start covering. I have this kind of slow zoom in going on here. That actually has a bit of what was called parallax, which means that things in the front are moving faster than things in the background. So you see Ashfur, it's moving a lot faster than and then he's just getting closer a lot faster than the background would, or Squirrel Fight. So that just kind of comes down to animating. So basically, layers can be moved around, like this, and anything, literally any little thing in After Effects can be animated. You can set keyframes on them, and they can be change their values over time. So in this case, if you go drop down the menu for this one, you can see these little dark marks. These are transformation. Basically what that is transform is, here's his position. So his position has been animated. These little stopwatches, see how there's stopwatches and everything? That's what this little gray circle is. If you couldn't make it out in the stream, it's actually just like a little picture of a stopwatch. Almost every single value that's yellow has it. Basically what that means is that if you click it like that, it'll set keyframes, and then you can animate that value. So you can animate certain qualities of an effect. Say if I want Ashfur to go from this amount of blurred to this amount of blurred in the scene. If I want to rack the focus, I can do that and then move it over and then make them more blurred, and it'll actually animate. It'll change. Here's the scene in the middle right here. Now it's 31. It was in between them, and he gets less and less blurred as the scene goes on. So that's just a cool thing you can do. I think I had it at 16. In this case, I have his transformation here, so I'm literally just moving him across the screen. That's pretty much what I'm doing. So there's my first keyframes. Starting back there, but kind of ends up over here. And it's nice doing that in After Effects, because I have a lot of nice control. When you're working with how the keyframes interpolate between the two, you have this nice graph editor. If anyone's ever worked with Maya, then you've done a 3D animation, it's very similar to that. Graph editor works the same way. Maya's is a little bit more intuitive, but After Effects is very strong, very good too. In this case, it's just a very simple one. If you want to add easing, though, say if I want the camera to move in, out very quickly, I can right click on this, go to keyframe assistance and ease, and it kind of makes it look like this. And now it'll kind of start off slow and then get fast and then slow down again. So that's always a nice quality to have when you're working with cameras. That's probably harder to get in other programs. So After Effects has a lot of good things. So that's one reason why I was doing that. I believe his scale should be animated too. Maybe it's something else. Anyway, but anything can be animated. This in case his position, but his scale can be animated. He can be rotated, so you can animate him spinning. I don't know why if you need to, but say if your camera turns a bit, maybe if it needs to spin. So basically, you just want to simulate the camera movements by moving the actual objects around on the screen. Now, After Effects actually does have a virtual camera. If that's what you're more used to, if you want to work with something like that, it has a virtual camera option. I just find it a little bit more complicated and unnecessary, honestly. If you already have all your different objects separated, then you can just move them around individually and create the camera that way, simulate the camera effect, So I have Squirrel Fight. She's animated as well. You can see there, transform. So it's all the same thing, same idea. And the nice thing about that is because I was moving her around on After Effects, After Effects has the nice thing that if you move something really fast, say move it over a big space in a very short amount of time. You can actually activate this motion blur option. So if you click on this thing up here called Enable Motion Blur, and then if you click on the layer that it's on, it has this little like circle, a bunch of different circles lined up box. Usually it's empty, but if you click on it, it'll enable motion blur for that option, for that layer. And then if you move it really fast, say if I want to move the camera really fast, like a camera whipping around or zooming in really fast, called a crash zoom. In this case, I have a crash zoom. It'll actually create this really nice looking motion blur. It looks really wild here because it's just a freeze frame. But in this case, that's how I was able to get this really cool effect where you can see Hollyleaf way back there, and then I kind of crash zoomed in on this image, which looks really silly, and then it goes right into this next frame, which is very different looking, kind of broken looking. It's like, oh, how does that transition nicely to this? But the crash zoom, the motion blur, makes it all just transition really smoothly. And then if you've seen my part, if you haven't on my YouTube, if you're watching my YouTube, you'll see it here. It kind of just transitions right into this shot, and then you can kind of really sell that by adding a little bit of more slowly zooming in on this next shot. Just kind of continue that motion, so that way it doesn't jar the viewer too much, that it zooms in and stops. Usually if it zooms in and then has like a very slow zoom as well, that's how I do it. Also, how the way I'm getting the zoom is literally the objects, these guys, I'm just messing around with their scale, I think, or whatever, and yeah, it's just very, very easy. Am I not? It's just position. All right. Well, anyway, should be scale. Anyway, so like, yeah, it's just really just I'm really just dragging them, making them look bigger. And then so that's how I kind of got the crash zoom is just, and all the respective zooms. I was able to get this nice parallax zoom because I had Ashfur as a separate layer. She and this foreground background thing is a separate layer, and then the way back there, them and this background is a separate layer. So this, and this are all separate layers. So that way I can move this guy the fastest, this guy a little slower, and this guy the slowest, and it creates this nice parallax effect, which is really good. You can also do that a lot of different other ways. It can really make a 2D animation feel a lot more 3D. Same with this. See they're moving the camera a lot closer. See here they're almost touching Hollyleaf, and then by the end of the shot, he's a lot farther. Whoops, a lot of fire. There's a lot farther. Anyway, so this is a fire shot right here. This is what I animated over here. I have this little fire sequence. Just minimize all the different. I hid all the other layers and exported that separately. I put the same sort of glow effects on it that I put on for the rest of the fire. And if I put it on top of them, and then I used the masking layer. I used the masking tool, so that way, right? Let's see if I can get to the right frame. Right here, you can see it kind of is functioning as a scene transition where you can still see Hollyleaf scene up here, and then down here it's starting to reveal Ashfur's death shot. So After Effects can be good for clever transitions like that. So it's fun little way of doing that. This water was actually created from scratch in After Effects. Honestly, I didn't come up with that myself. I just looked up how to make water in After Effects, and I followed that tutorial. Don't feel shamed just looking up tutorials that other people have made and using them for your project. His did look a little bit different because after he showed me how to make it, I then tweaked it a little bit for my purposes. But yeah, I used it for this, and then I simply took the mask tool and masked out a shape around Ashfur here, so that way it looks like he's underwater. This is one little things I did. I also found this footage of this water. See this like water light reflection on the rocks there, and it's actually, it's hard to see, but it's actually on Ashfur too. I don't know, I put it in there hoping some people might see it, but I don't think anyone ever noticed that effect. It's just so subtle. But yeah, like the light kind of dances on his a little bit. This is a little effect that water does sometimes. That is, I looked up, it's called caustics actually. It's weird. Caustics. I just found this footage. Oops. I'm going to import. Let's see. There it is. Looping caustics. And let's see if I can bring up an extra large icon of it. Yeah, this way it kind of looks like that. And I just took that image and made it black and white, and then set it to screen so I could light these guys, and then it kind of just masked it out so that way it just fit on the rock and onto Ashfur. This background right here was transparent. I actually put the bevel and emboss here just to add a little bit of light. I could have done that in the program itself, but I was already in After Effects. There's a bevel and emboss on Ashfur here, just giving him a nice top light. And then the background back here, I threw on the camera lens blur, like you saw. Same thing for Hollyleaf back here, camera lens blur, and she has also a little bevel and emboss, adding this really nice, bright highlight on her black fur, which I think looks nice, especially with the camera lens blur. Combining effects is all what After Effects is about, just to create the looks you want. This is kind of a specific effect just for this shot, so I'm not sure how much helpful it'll be for other projects, but I can kind of describe. This blood here, I kind of made it look like it's like moving in the water, sort of. Like it kind of waves and goes with the water. That is actually, I made a duplicate of the water, and then I used that as something called a displacement map. Basically what it can do is it, on the blood, let's see if I can find that. Here. On the blood, here it is. It has this thing called displacement map. It's effect, distort, displacement map, right there. Basically what it does is you can use another layer, another moving image, to kind of warp what the other image looks like. Usually it's based on the black and white values. I think for this one it's based on the red and green channels. Sorry if I talk technical sometimes, but After Effects is a technical program. So, I masked it out so that way it doesn't go on his neck, and then you can kind of see it kind of is able to move along with the water. I actually even added that distortion to Ashfur underneath the water too. I made a second Ashfur underneath there, see? Masked him out like that. See, like that. And then I actually added the distortion to this. That's another like tiny effect that I don't think anyone would have noticed because it goes by in a second. But I don't know. So people who do this professionally in movies, they add like every little effect they can. They always try to go overboard. So if I can, I try to make it look as good as I can. So yeah, see, here's my distorting layer. So it's black and white. And just minimize that because I don't need it. I mean, hide it because I don't need it. And yeah, that's how I'm able to distort the blood. And then the blood also, it's just getting longer. I just animated its scale, I think. Yeah, see, right here. It's just animated. So, it just gets bigger. It doesn't actually change shape or anything like that. It was just one image. So I'm pretty happy with how that effect turned out, actually. And then basically grabbed all these layers and transformed them down. One thing is if you want to move, say, like a big chunk, like all this was different layers, there's this thing you can do. You can highlight a bunch of different layers. You can hold shift and click, or hold control and click. You can set a pre-composition, which basically means it makes another composition within your composition, and it kind of turns into this tan looking layer. And then you can move the entire thing together in one big chunk like that. And you can add effects on the entire thing too. So pretty helpful. In this case, I was able to translate this entire thing down, and I also animated the camera lens blur. You can see I have the stopwatch checked off in here. So that way, as it panned down, it also got more and more blurred like that. And that's called racking focus. So I went between the background being blurred to the foreground being blurred. Now you can see Hollyleaf up there. There you go. So, that's one little thing. And the same thing for Hollyleaf up here. I think that's her name, right? I'm saying Holly Paul, maybe she was in this case. I don't know. Yeah. She just had some camera lens blur layer option that was animated, and yeah. This only works in workspace, but her shadow there, her ground shadow, is actually, I just took her animation, blurred it, turned it black, and shrunk it beneath her, so that way it kind of moved with her. It doesn't always work, but in this case it worked. So that's a way you can kind of create ground shadows if you need to. There it is. So yeah, it's literally just the same thing with a tint option, a blur, and yeah, it's really it. That works pretty well. And yeah, those are a lot of the things that I went over here. I might be missing something. If you see something in this video that you're like, oh, he didn't go over how to do that, I wish he did. Let me know in this Q&A session after I leave. After this goes, sorry. Not after I leave. I will stay on for a Q&A session. But yeah, so that's a big chunk. That's a lot of the composition stuff I would work with. As you can see, there's lots of layers. In this case, there's about 30. There's actually more because this thing has layers inside of its layers. So, but yeah, it's kind of how it works. It's fun. It's fun being creative in After Effects, I think. Compositor is a fun job. Okay, I'm going to show you one other effect. This is an effect I'm using now recently, especially in SSS Warrior Cats is going to use this effect a lot. So I'm going to show you. I don't know, it's not really a spoiler. It's for episode 2. We're re-uploading episode 2. It's getting. I've posted screenshots of it on Twitter. I'm doing an HD kind of revamp of it. I went into After Effects, basically took all the original Flash files, exported them in HD rather than the size they were, and yeah, and then just went into After Effects and did all the same sort of stuff I was just showing you for them on here. So this one has a ton of layers. I don't even know how many. It's like hundreds of layers. But mainly why I wanted to bring this up, it's not showed off or anything. I just want to show you this one effect that wasn't present in the old one. Oh, there you can see that light I was mentioning. See, right there. So yeah, I can show you the light actually. Let's see if it's light. Okay. Okay, so it's pretty simple. So here, there's a light up there. I actually, there's the bevel and emboss effect on him going on. Just little subtle things. But yeah, these lights effect help a lot. In this case, I put a bright one up here for the sky. Just made this nice glow. It's really this nice sense of light in the scene. So those are just helpful things you can do. Okay, but yeah, you'll see this when it comes out. I don't want to spoil everything. But that's one way of using the light. And then what I wanted to show is is it? It's around here. There we go. So this effect, this sort of leaf, like tree shading effect. You see a lot of times they actually use it a lot in like anime. I noticed they do this compositing effect. So it's just one of the ones I like to be able to use too. I think it's a really nice thing. It's almost kind of graphic because it stays still and the characters kind of move underneath it like this. You see it's affecting just the character, it's not on the background. And yeah, it's just a nice effect to pull off if you want. See, it moves around. It's on Rusty down here too. It's still Rusty in this case. So you can see, just little things like this. It just adds a nice kind of forest lighting effect. So when they're in the forest, this is the kind of stuff I would use. So in order to get this effect, it's pretty simple. I worked this one out myself. Basically, the first thing you want to do is either find a kind of black and white image of a tree, like of leaf lighting. I kind of looked around for some on Google, and I found some nice ones. The one I'm using here is this one, I think. Looks like that. Basically, you can see like the outlines of leaves and then like this bright sky. Or you can make one yourself on Photoshop. Kind of paint out one if you like doing that. If you're good at background painting. Kind of want to just paint out like a leaf layer. And you kind of bring that into After Effects. And here I'm going to show you. So okay. So this is what it would look like if you just kind of threw it on top of them, right? It just looks like that. Just the leaves thrown on top. And then, you know, underneath that you have your character layer. He's in this case way down here. Nope, that's not him. Here he is. Okay. So here's Lionheart, I believe. No, that's not Lionheart. Yikes, I have way too many layers for this shot. No, this is Lionheart. Is this being weird? Oh, it's because I have two up here. Silly me. Okay, well, whatever. So I have Lionheart down here. He's separate from the background, just the same way like we've been compositing everything else. And then I have this my leaf layer up here. Here it is. Okay, so the first thing you'd want to do is probably set this one to multiply. So you can do that with the blending mode. Another helpful way if you want to, though, I didn't show this before, is if you click on this kind of gray bar up here, right click, and you see columns, there's modes, parents, and switches. I usually like having all three of these on. They're usually not by default, but if you turn them all on, you get this thing, mode. So that's a simple way you can immediately click on it, turn it to multiply. And then track mat, that's right here. Track mat, sorry. Sounds wild, but that's very important for this thing. And parenting. That's something also I should have gone over, where say if the background's moving and you want the character to move with it, rather than trying to animate the character to match the background animation. If you click on parent like this, click on the layer, and then you can click on the background layer that's animated, it'll just automatically like stick to the background wherever it needs to, or vice versa. Say if you animate the character, you can stick the background to it. Parenting has a lot of uses. You'll find yourself being creative with it, I'm sure, at some point. But anyway, now you have it on multiply. You'll want to actually go down to your character layer, right? And you'll want to create a duplicate of it. Command D. I already did, and but in which case you do that. You create a duplicate of the character, and then you put that one on top of your leaf layer, like that. So this is mine, like right here. Okay. And then once you do that, you can actually hide this layer. You don't need to see it. And once you hit it, then right here with this track mat, you have to make sure that the I think switches. No, which one is it? I don't know. Basically, one of the, if you don't see track mat, it's make sure you have all three of these ones on. They're just important. But you should see track mat, and then on the leaf layer, make sure you're on the leaves layer where it says none right here. You want to click that, and you want to click on alpha mat, and then it'll give you the title of the layer that's above it. Now, and then when you do that, you'll notice, bam, it's now following the alpha value of the character layer that you had on top. Even though you can't see it, it's still following it. So that's how you can keep the the leaf layer inside your character. So it's pretty cool. This has a lot of different uses too. You know, if you want, you can put any overlays over this. You can put gradient overlays over your characters that don't affect the background. You can put lighting effects like this leaves for forest feels. You can put like I don't know, if you're in a city, maybe it has some sort of like beam shadows from some sort of structure. I don't know. Anyway, any uses you want, you can put it on here like that, right? And then I don't know, you can just lower the opacity a little bit. I had mine at like 30 or something. I don't know. Find some good value that you like, and then there you go. That's how you do that effect. I think in some cases I might blur the leaves a little bit too. So a blur in here. Yeah, I have a little bit of a blur on here. It's because when it's all the way sharp, it's a little jarring. So use your creative tastes when working with things. You know, if something looks weird, try to find a solution to it. Don't just be like, it's fine, because a lot of times After Effects has a solution for it. So it's always, you know, don't feel afraid to go the extra mile when you're working with things. So I blurred that, and yeah, that's how I did this leaf effect. You know, for different shots, I might have zoomed in a little bit more to match the character's size. Or I might have rotated it to make it feel different. But yeah, that's kind of how it was. So I hope you will look forward to that effect, and when these videos are released, they will be released soon, hopefully. Still working out some of the audio things, but yeah. I mean, obviously you've already seen episode 2, but I think it looks pretty nice here, if I say so myself. Anyway, so yeah, that's how you do the cool leaf overlay effect. I think that's pretty much all the effects I would cover normally. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. That was fun. Man, I talked a lot. My voice is hoarse. I've been drinking water, I promise, but yikes. Yeah. I hope you liked that. I hope it was helpful. Hope it looks. Will you look forward to that? I guess I can show like one more quick effect. This is something I started doing actually since episode 3 for Warriors, and then I forgot about the effect for a while for my own personal work, and then I remembered it again now. Which is, especially for Flash, TV Paint, my animations, I don't worry about it as much, but with Flash, it has this really sharp, clean look. So I actually put this very slight blur on the characters, and it's a blur effect called the compound blur. Go to blur, sharpen, compound blur, and then I turn it way down to like 1. I think its default is like 10 or something crazy like this. I don't know, it looks awful. And then I also set it to invert. And basically what this does is this adds this very subtle blur effect. It's slightly different than like a normal Gaussian blur. It kind of leaves the lines pretty sharp feeling, but just adds this nice soft glow to like colors. And I don't know, I just hope it finds diffuse the character into the backgrounds a bit more, because if your backgrounds are also vector and very sharp looking, then I'd recommend not doing that and make it look weird. But if your backgrounds are supposed to be painted and soft and your character is very hard and vector looking flash, it's just a nice way to help diffuse the character into the background a little bit. So yeah, just a little something. I used it already in SS Warrior Cats episode 3, so if you've seen that, that's where I used it the first time actually. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and now I can be active on the little chat there, and I'll answer any specific questions that people might have. Cool. Let's see. I'll check out this chat. Okay. Thank you, Barry Quiet. It says my artwork is great. Thank you. And Spider-N, hi, welcome. I remember, yes, you saying you were interested in the After Effects stuff, and my After Effects stuff. So I'm glad you're here. And you wanted to learn how to do the water effect. I mean, if you guys want, I can. I mean, I think the tutorial I followed probably did a better rendition of it, but if you want, I can go into my water effects and how you do it. It's a lot of like, that goes into like another kind of level of After Effects, which is like you're combining a bunch of different things in a very specific way to create the effect you want. Maybe I can show you more how I used it too, besides just the distortion, but I don't know, it's helpful. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Sketch Dragon or Corgion. I'm not sure. I know you go by that on Twitter, but thank you. I'm glad I covered a lot of things that you guys might have been looking at. Hopefully, I also really kind of drill down the idea of the process of going around compositing something, thinking about it ahead while you're animating. So you're keeping your characters and your backgrounds separate. You're exporting everything separately. It's a lot of compositing's not easy. It's a lot of work, a lot of like thinking, but I don't know. I think it's really cool, and I always look forward to doing that type of stuff. Even like working like compositing other people's animations. It's fun. If I can somehow help people's animations look even nicer how they want to. I mean, they already look good, but like maybe. And also, like, don't think that the way I did things, the way I showed you here, is like the way of doing things, or the way that you have to do things too. Like, After Effects has a billion different ways of compositing things, and you guys should definitely play around with them and come up with some of the different ways that you can use After Effects. Like the bevel and emboss is one way of shading a character, but maybe you'll find a different way. You know, I think I've seen other ones out there. I might look into them as well. So far, this is just the effect that has kind of become like, I don't know, a style like I like to see in all my animations. Sort of like a signature-ish style. Yeah, I don't know. There's a helpful thing, and I don't mean by saying like, oh, it's my style, don't copy it. Like, by all means, use any of the methods I've shown you today in your own animations. I'd love to see how you employ them, and yeah, I think they'll turn out really nice. I hope that was helpful. Is there any other specific questions? I know I see some people might possibly be joining right now, so hello, welcome. If you are, feel free to just post questions on this chat. I'm still happy to take some answers, answer some questions, take questions. Cool. I'm glad it'll be helpful in the future, hopefully for anyone who needs to do some After Effects stuff. If you guys want, I can possibly go a little bit more into like animating the channels, into like, I don't know, animating objects on After Effects. Motion blur, if I went over that a little bit too fast. After Effects it's good for that. Here I can show you a quick thing if you want. Here, addition. So say if I want to animate, I don't know, a little square or something. Also, if you ever need like a white solid object or something for whatever reason, if you go up to your layer, new solid, you can just kind of create objects. It's pretty helpful. So if I say white, bam, and I can just make it small, and bam, bam, there's a square. And now a square I can animate. Ta-da! So that's fun. You can move it around, and then go here to transform. You have different options. Okay, also a fast way. If you want to move things around, it has little shortcuts. If you click on the layer, hit P, it'll bring up the position, so you can change those values, X, Y. What else? Oh yeah, R is rotation, so you can spin things. S, scale. Those are pretty straightforward. The only one that's not straightforward for some reason is opacity is T. I guess because O is something else. So, yeah, any of these things can be animated just by using the check mark. If I want to make this square fade away, then I just check mark the opacity at 100%, go over there, make it 0, and bam, just slowly fades away. Okay. Then you can delete that. No, it won't. So, oops. Okay. But yeah, if I go to its position, if I hit here, hit the thing. Say if I wanted to, also another helpful thing, if you wanted to hold a little bit before animating, you might want to go to the position you want it to hold. If you click this little diamond shape here, it adds a keyframe. So now it has another keyframe where it was. And then say I want it to move over here. So just kind of drag it over there. And there we go, see? Look at that. It moves. So this is the same thing you can do with your background layers and your character layers to animate them moving around the scene. You kind of simulate a camera that way, And then same thing with motion blur. This is a pretty helpful way to get motion blur. Say if things moves really fast, you can actually see its keyframe positions here. Say if it moves this fast, it's going pretty fast. And if I turn on motion blur for the whole project and turn it on for this layer, bam! Look at that. Now it has motion blur. See, it starts off normal, and then boom, it moves. And oops. So load that for a second. Hopefully I didn't crash After Effects again, just trying to show you motion blur. I promise it works fine. Save often. Here's another thing. That's still something I fail at often, is not saving and losing my work. That happens a lot. With every single program. After Effects included. It's just a really resource heavy program, so any program that does that, like After Effects, like Flash even sometimes, if you try to do something that's really big and the program's like not ready for it, it'll just kind of crash. It can't process it and it dies. Go back to the chat. Cool. So Spider-Man, I did not go in exactly how the water was made, because like I said, there was a tutorial that did that, but I did go into after you do make the water and kind of save it as its own movie file. I kind of went into the ways I used it in compositing my animation, how I can put it around characters, how I can use it to make things distorted and like reflections. Oh yeah, I guess I can show you that and show reflection. So After Effects is dead right now, so let me kill it. Gosh, I hope this doesn't all crash and burn again like last time. I think it is. Okay, BRB 1 second. I'm gonna come right back. Okay. Hopefully I'm back online now. Yeah, everything's good. Stream health looks green. Okay, I see. I'm gonna show you guys this a quick thing with the water. How you can use it to say put someone's reflection on there. And yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so now I can show you guys. And then I see Warrior Rainy Day. You also asked a question about lighting. I covered a lot of lighting stuff earlier in the stream. I know you came in late. You can always rewatch the video. I wasn't sure exactly when it happened. Maybe at around a minute. A little bit ago. 20 minutes in or so. Started covering that. So you can check that out if you want. It covers the kind of edge glows and soft shading effects I kind of put on my animations a lot. That kind of covers that stuff. But so I recommend that. And then for now, I'm just going to show this water thing. Sorry if I slowed down there. I was feeling a little bit tired after talking for an hour and a half. Here, let me just import something quick so I can show this. Actually, no, I actually have a file here for Faustier's StarClan Light map. My part actually included this afterwards. My part didn't have any water in the first time, but actually it was supposed to have some water and actually a slight reflection, so I included that now. Here you can see a reflection. I already posted this part on YouTube, so I don't think it's like a sharing any secret here. So yeah, basically this is just the same water effect I had, and then I masked it out to kind of fit this little edge here, and then basically what I just did is I took what's her name again? Brightheart, I think, right? That's her name. Brightheart's animation I have for moving around here. See, she's like that, and then I just flipped it upside down, and I flipped it upside down. Let's see. Yeah, so I flipped it upside down. There it is, water. Oh, that's actually still water. Where's she? There she is. Yeah, so that one's just a flipped upside down version of herself, masked out to fit the water as well. And then as I showed earlier in the stream, I basically took my copy of the water, I turned it black and white and increased the contrast a little bit. It helps with the displacement map. And then on this layer I put displacement map right here. So basically what that does is whoa, there we go. That is kind of distorting the image, so that way it looks right. Oh, whoops, that's not the right one. There it is, sorry. This layer. There you go. So see, that's what she would normally look like, and then that's with the water displacement, so that way it kind of has that ripply effect. Yeah, and that just, it works well with a lot of characters, a lot of different things. I can show you the same thing, starting from a fresh slate. Let's give me a 1080p 24. There we go. Okay. If I import her face, this one. Okay. Okay, so there she is. Right. And then I have my water, which actually I think I saved. Happen to save over here. Five giants. Did I? Or save it somewhere else? Water. Oh, there it is. Watercolor. So basically, I made this. I followed another tutorial on After Effects. That's what I'm saying. Followed the tutorial, and it showed me how to make this. It's basically just like this moving water effect, like that. See? Like that. But then basically, what I can do with this is one way to give it perspective is if you click this little cube here. See how there's like this cube? It says 3D layer. If you click that, it gives you this little blue triangle. And then if you go down to its transformation, it now has an X, Y, and Z rotation. And this little X, red is X, green is Y, and Z is blue. So if I rotate it on the X, it'll kind of rotate back in space like this. So if I kind of make it flat like that, it'll kind of give it a little bit of a proper perspective warp that a character would be experiencing if you were like standing in front of it on a plane. Something like that, right? Say she's standing on the edge of this water. Say she's even standing on the water for some whatever reason. Okay, so there it is. There's the water. Then if I want to give her a reflection, I could just duplicate her, Command D, as I showed before. Grab the one below, like that. If I go like this, I can flip it upside down and just match it up like that. It's not the perfect way of doing it by any means, because I mean, a reflection would actually be a slightly different angle. But yeah, you can kind of make it work. And then I'm going to duplicate the water, bring it up top, actually, and I can actually just hide it. I don't need it. I'm just using it as a reference layer for this displacement map. I find it's helpful that if you color correct black and white, and then I also want to color correct brightness contrast, and I just brought up the contrast a lot. So I get some nice darks, nice highlights like that. And then hide it. Then go to your reflection layer. And then just go to Effect, Distort, Displacement Map. Right now it's set to its own displacement map, but if you click on here, Displacement Map Layer, and then click on the watercolor number 2, see it, they're numbered by the layer order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's how, if you have a ton of layers and you can't remember all the names, just look at the numbers, it's helpful. If I click on this, you can see now that the water is actually going to be distorting. It's actually very subtle right now, but if I bring up its horizontal displacement, let's bring that up, you can see it starts getting a lot more displaced. There we go. So now, as the water moves, so does her reflection. Here, let me preview this file so that we can see it in full quality. There we go. You can see that. There it is. So this is a cool way to get water and a reflection of a character that also works with the water. It's pretty neat. Kind of a 2-in-1 effect there. So also you probably want to tint the color of the reflection, possibly. Make her, actually like a kind of a blue color, so it's not totally. Oh, sorry, you want to like tint the color, probably just change the colors up a little bit of reflection, and then maybe change the opacity down a little bit, something like that. There we go. Now that looks a little bit better, like a reflection. There we go. So that's one way to get a reflection of a character, if people want to know that effect. You might need to adjust it a little bit afterwards. There we go. There we go. So yeah, it's a little helpful way. And again, one more time to show that lighting, if you want. Just layer styles, bevel and emboss. You know, go over here, change up the size, maybe make the size a little bit bigger. Change up the angle, so she wants to be lit from the back there. Then I can maybe change the shadow color to the water blue, so she gets a nice like blue color in there. Bring that down a bit. If I want to, I can even change, instead of multiply, I can have it be like an overlay, so or like a even normal. This is blue, a blue color, lighter blue color, something like that. So this is a nice blue tinge. Another way you can use bevel and emboss differently, rather than the shadows, it can also be like a bounce light. When light hits the water, it reflects blue back up on the characters, just kind of lights them blue a little bit. Looks nice in places, especially on the paw there, and the face, the tail area. And then top's looking fine. Maybe soften it up a little bit. Increase the size a bit. There we go. It makes a nice little soft yellow light. Cool. Okay, so that's kind of how that was looking. And if you wanted to, you can always click bevel and emboss, hit Command C, and paste it onto your upside down one there, and it'll match it. And there you go. Now you got a nice little scene going on there. Hopefully that was pretty cool. Checking the chat again now. Yeah. Any other questions? Let's wait for the stream to catch up. Thank you for anyone who's like been with me this entire time too. I know it's been a longer stream. It's been like 2 hours or so. Oof, my stream health is red. I hope I don't sound weird, and I hope it's not too laggy. Sorry, my stream health is red. Should make it better. But yeah, feel free to ask any more questions. I hope I answered a lot of them. I hope everything turned out pretty good. And yeah, like I said, this video will remain on my channel. You can come back to it later if you need to review any of the things we learn. And yeah, I hope it's been cool. There's a lot more on After Effects that I haven't shown, by the way. So look around tutorials. Don't feel like weird if it's just like it's something you think that After Effects can do, but you're not sure how. Like, oh, I need I don't know, a magic portal or something like that. And you're like, how do I get a magic portal? Just look up like magic portal After Effects tutorial and you'll find some. Oh, okay, here's a quick question I'll answer. Is there a way to stay more organized in After Effects? Yes. Sorry, I brought this up very briefly earlier, but then I kind of stopped because it was more complicated. But After Effects is a very layer-intensive program. So, see, like for the simple scene, I already have like 4 different layers right now. And one way to keep that together is by making pre-comps or compositions within compositions. So this is a composition. This whole scene right now is all part of comp 1 right there. But if I wanted to, I could also highlight all these layers, hit right click, and hit pre-compose, and then I can say, let's make this, I don't know, cat reflection, you know, hit OK, and then bam, now it's all one layer, like that. Now you're not losing any of your like ability to edit this. If you double click on this, it'll bring you open to another composition. You can see now you actually have another tab here. This is cat reflection. If you go back to comp 1, it's there. So if you edit something in cat reflection, say if I move her and go back to comp 1, it'll affect it there. But if I move comp 1, it won't affect cat reflection, because cat reflection is inside comp 1. So it's almost kind of like, if you've worked with Flash before, it's like making symbols, pretty much. And this can be helpful for a lot of different ways. Say also if I wanted to apply an effect to all of this and not try to put it on each individual layer or whatever. Like if I wanted a big camera lens blur on all of this, I can pre-comp it and then go to the effects and put a comp effect on the entire pre-comp. So now, my camera lens blur affects the entire thing. So, pretty cool, helpful way to stay organized. I hope that helps, if that's what you mean. Besides that, I also mentioned how when you're putting things in here, everything gets a number. So just numbering layers, it automatically does that for you. Helpful. Yeah, pretty much those things. Also, if you're like trying to move things around, if you like need to time something up, if you hit with the bracket keys, it'll either automatically bring the beginning of the clip to where your marker is. It's pretty helpful. Those are the bracket keys. They're the ones that kind of look like half squares. Or you can bring automatically to the end of your piece, like that. I happen to have Cloudtail here, but yeah. So that's how that works. Okay, I hope that was helpful. And then I guess if there's not any more questions, if there aren't any more questions, gosh, I'm sorry, my English has degraded a lot since the stream has begun. I guess I'll be ending the stream soon. So I hope everyone enjoyed that, though. I hope everyone learned some After Effects. I hope that people can come back to this and learn some more. And I also would always be happy if people are like, man, I'm learning all these new things and I want like another stream of After Effects tutorial that's just Q&A, or give me a tutorial on this other effect, you missed it in this last one. But sure, I'd be happy to do that. And if I learn more things and I'm ready to make another tutorial, I can do that too. Because I don't know, I'm always trying to learn new ways of doing these effects on After Effects. Like half of the ones I just showed you, I only learned recently just by messing around with the program, or by thinking, oh, I wish I could do this. Let me figure out how. If you have that sort of attitude, I think you can learn a lot of things easily. So it's a good way to go about. I guess with that motivation, I should be eating some dinner. It is getting late, but I hope you all enjoyed. Thanks for sticking by, those who did, and I guess I'll be heading off the stream now. Ciao, everyone.